The wind came down from the northern ridge in long, uneven breaths, rattling the shutters of the old Lewison ranch house as though it wanted to shake loose every secret inside it. Folks in Dry Creek always said that land was restless, haunted, some whispered, but no one said it too loudly. Not because they feared ghosts, but because they feared the man who owned it, Bo Lewison, the last surviving son of a family that had farmed those hills for 3 generations. Bo wasn't unkind, but he was different. Stubborn like a mule welded to a boulder, and twice as hard to move once he'd set his mind on something. Which was why, when he stepped into Miss Darling's cafe one dusty afternoon and announced in his low, steady drawl that he was going to open the north pasture, everyone froze mid-slurp, mid-sip, mid-sentence. The north pasture was a place nobody touched. Bo had grown up with stories of it, same as the rest of the town. Cattle that wandered and never came back out, storms formed above it on cloudless days, and people camping near the boundary swore they felt watched from behind the burned-out pines that marked its edge. Old man Lewison, Bo's granddad, had fenced it off long before Bo was born. His father kept it closed, too. The family rule was carved into a plank nailed to one of the corner posts, "Do not enter." So when Bo said he was going to open it, the cafe went silent in a way that scraped against every wall. Miss Darling herself was the first to speak. "Please. Bo, don't do that." Nobody laughed at her tone. She wasn't pleading the way one might beg a stubborn child. She was pleading the way a person begs someone standing on the edge of a cliff. Bo only tipped his hat, thanked her for the coffee, and left without another word. And just like that, the whole town started buzzing. By sundown, everyone knew. Some said he'd gone mad from working alone too long. Others said he must have dug up some old family papers out of his daddy's desk that suggested treasure or buried equipment. And then there were the darker rumors, that he was doing it because he'd heard something from inside the pasture calling to him. By the next morning, half the townsfolk were parked along the dirt road that led to the Lewison property, dust clouding around their truck tires, coffee thermoses steaming. Nobody wanted to admit they were worried, but nobody wanted to miss whatever would happen, either. Bo was already out there at first light, standing beside the old fence. The planks were dry as bones, the wire sagging from decades of sun and wind. He had tools strapped to his belt, fresh boards stacked in the bed of his truck, and a look in his eyes that wasn't wild, but wasn't calm either. Determined, maybe. Maybe too determined. "Morning," he said to the small crowd gathering along the fence line. "Bo," Sheriff Donnelly said as he approached, hat tilted forward over his eyes, "I'm only gonna say this once. Folks don't want you opening that pasture." Bo tightened the strap on his gloves. "It's my land. That don't mean it's safe. There's nothing out there but rumors." Miss Darling stepped forward, wringing her apron in her hands though she wasn't at work. "Your granddaddy closed it for a reason." Bo looked past her toward the hills, now stained gold with the rising sun. That reason died with him. And then, without ceremony, without hesitation, he cut the wire at the gatepost. A gasp rippled through the crowd, though no one moved to stop him. Maybe they were too stunned. Maybe they wanted to see what would happen as much as they dreaded it. The gate fell open with a groan that sounded almost like a warning. Bo stepped through. Nothing dramatic happened. No lightning bolt. No roar from the trees. No sudden chill. Just Bo, crunching across dry grass with a toolbox in hand, heading deeper into the pasture. The crowd watched until he became a shrinking speck among the rolling, yellow-brown hills. By noon, most people drifted away. Nothing scary had happened, and it was hot. Folks had things to do. But a knot of anxiety still clung to the town. Every so often, someone would glance north as though expecting smoke, or worse. When Bo returned just before sunset, people filled the cafe again, waiting for him to come tell what he'd found. He didn't. He sat at the counter, ordered stew, and ate quietly. Miss Darling tried to coax a word or two out of him, but he only said, found some old tracks. That was it. The next morning, he went back again. And again the day after. And again. By the end of the week he'd cleared brush, patched the fence, repaired an old cattle shed nobody remembered being there. All the while, the town continued to worry. People swore they saw strange glimmers of light in the pasture at night. A pair of hikers reported low humming coming from somewhere beyond the ridge. Dogs barked in the direction of the North Hills more than usual. Even the air seemed to grow heavier, like the atmosphere itself was holding its breath. On the seventh day, just after dusk, the ground shook. Not a big quake, just a tremor, but strong enough to rattle windows and send people stumbling out onto porches. The sheriff got calls. The mayor got calls. And through every phone line ran a single name, Bo. The sheriff raced to the Lewison ranch. When he reached the north pasture, he found the gate wide open and Bo's truck empty. A faint glow shimmered deep inside the grasslands, pale blue, otherworldly, like moonlight trapped underwater. Bo, the sheriff shouted, but the wind swallowed his voice. Word spread fast. Within minutes, half the town was parked along the fence again, watching that eerie light pulse like a heartbeat. Nobody dared go in. Except Miss Darling. She marched through the open gate with more courage than sense, calling Bo's name as she strode toward the glow. The sheriff chased after her. A few others followed, not wanting to let the two disappear alone. When they crested the small rise at the center of the pasture, they saw it. Bo stood in a clearing around a sinkhole he'd uncovered earlier that week. But the sinkhole wasn't empty anymore. It glowed from within, illuminating the jagged rock and dirt. The light didn't seem natural, not like fire or lantern or reflection. It throbbed like something alive. Bo didn't look afraid. He looked entranced. Miss Darling grabbed his arm. Bo, what in God's name are you doing? He didn't look away from the light. I think it's a cave. Maybe deeper than anyone knew. There's something wrong with it, she shouted. You feel that? You feel how cold it is? It was cold. Unnaturally cold. Frost crept along the ground in thin white veins, spreading outward from the hole like spiderweb cracks in glass. It's just air moving from underground, Bo insisted, though his breath fogged as he spoke. No, Sheriff Donnelly said. This isn't right. We need to leave. But Bo stepped closer to the edge. And in that moment, something moved inside the light. A ripple. A shadow. A shape that didn't fit with anything living above ground. Miss Darling screamed for him to get back. The sheriff lunged to grab him. But Bo leaned forward, mesmerized. I can hear it, he whispered. It's calling. The ground groaned again, louder this time, and the earth split another inch around the hole. A crack raced beneath their feet, and everyone stumbled. Bo slipped. The sheriff caught his jacket, but the ground gave way again, buckling under their combined weight. Miss Darling grabbed the sheriff, two ranch hands grabbed her. A human chain formed at the edge of the glowing pit as the light flared brighter, hot enough to burn their eyes. Pull, the sheriff bellowed. They pulled. Hard enough to wrench shoulders, tear muscles, rip seams in jackets. Bo screamed, not in pain, but in something that sounded too close to longing. The light surged. For a heartbeat, the whole pasture lit up brighter than noon. Then, silence. The glow died. The earth stilled. And everyone toppled backward onto cold dirt, dragging Bo with them away from the pit. For a long time, nobody spoke. Bo lay gasping, shaking like a fever patient, staring at the now dark hole. Miss Darling knelt beside him. What did you think you were doing? He swallowed hard, his voice raw. It wasn't just calling me. It was, pulling. The sheriff stood, eyes narrowed at the pit. We're sealing this. Tonight. Nobody argued. By morning, the sinkhole was filled.